Jones, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm reading the second paragraph of this item, where it says it's important to remember that individual sites for future housing and employment are not being designated as part of the consultation. Before any decisions are made about what land is required for the future, it's vital that the council hears residents' views on the issues and options. I entirely agree with that. I think before council starts to identify sites for development, that it should listen to residents' views about whether development of those sites would be suitable and various reasons for that. I have concerns that this is not true. I and other councillors have attended a number of meetings alongside parish councillors from Keele and Silverdale and representatives of the university where Keele Golf Course has been discussed for development. At those meetings, I've specifically been shown maps of how that site could be developed, including a significant volume of housing, indicative outlines of highway plans, and discussions with the university about how a special case could be made to remove that site from the Greenbelt. I wonder if the leader can confirm to council that his statement is true, or has Keele Golf Course clearly been identified as a site for development? Because if that work has gone into the development or identification of the site for development to make a case to take it out of the Greenbelt before residents have had chance to respond on the consultation of the strategic options, then there is an element of predetermination going on by the cabinet in order to get this site into the local plan. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I've been really disappointed by the politicisation of this local plan process by members of the Labour Party, Green representatives, and unfortunately also one Liberal Democrat as well, who's not a councillor but is active in Chesterton. And this involves spreading false information into the community about the current strategic options consultation and claims relating to sale of green spaces in the borough. And namely, these are calling into question the consultation timeline, the process, when in fact it follows a well-established guidelines, and such consultations take place on local plans at this stage across the country. And this consultation actually includes more sessions out in the public than the joint local plan version of this, which was under the control of the Labour group a few years ago. We're going out to more communities, aren't we, Paul? And we're going out to speak to more people about this and giving them the opportunity. And I see claims on social media that I believe are backed by at least one Labour councillor in this room, claiming that the council is looking to sell green space and cut trees down in Chesterton. This is, I believe, Cross Street, which is owned by Aspire Housing. Okay. And then Madeley and Ashley, I've come to, I cannot see any borough council land that's up for sale in any of those. So the list goes on. We come to Bradwell, which has been put forward. And of course, there are two sites there, which quite rightly are being looked at for some sort of development. And I will remind Labour councillor for Bradwell, who's always probably over the road saying this earlier and saying these type of things, that was actually brought forward, taken through the planning process and put up for sale by the previous Labour administration. And then we turn to the cemetery, the crematorium grounds, That is the only decision made by Cabinet, is to utilise some of that land for the extension to the crematorium to allow people that have their cremation taking place at Bradwell to be interned or their ashes scattered on the grounds there. We're running out of space there. That's something that's not the fault of this administration. It's something that's come to light since 2017. And it reminds me of when we had, we came into power in 2006 after 20 odd years of Labour leadership, and there was no room to bury anybody. So we had to get the cemetery up in Keele pretty quick and bring it into use so we could actually bury people within the borough. So similar situation in Bradwell means we need to utilise that land. There's a lot of conversations to go yet before that is finally decided and how that's going to work, and the community will be involved in that. Keele Golf Course. there was a plan about the outgoing administration, what was called the Keele and I think it was Westlands Development Master Planning Area, which was going to put 1,800 houses on Keele Golf Course. The plans which Councillor Jones is talking about, I believe will be the ones that are in the public domain after going to Cabinet a couple of years ago as part of the joint local plan, now defunct. That this council was considering, and I think we were down to about 1,000 homes at that point. And I think there's a long way to go on that site. There's a lot of consultation to take place. This local plan consultation on strategic options feeds into that, and the questions are being asked, and we're waiting for the public to answer. Now, I see what this is all about. It comes back to the discussion we're having here about point scoring and leaflet writing, doesn't it? And I see we've got a motion later, which is proposing something which the Labour Party never did when it was in power. And this 51% referendum of people, they didn't do that in Nipaway, the Bradwell Hospital, when they took that through Cabinet to flog it, or when they tried to flog Sandy Lane, or when they tried to flog the Grumbles in Chesterton, when they tried to flog Stafford Avenue. The list goes on. Please remind me of any more, Steve, I've missed. And also remember, the first Cabinet decision I took as leader with my Cabinet and the Conservative group took was to remove sites that were going to go through that same process in Westlands, in Westbury Park, etc. And just to remind you that the Keele and Westlands development plan included the Butts and Bunny Hill that Labour were bringing forward in their twilight of their administration in 2017. So I'll take no lectures on green space or consultations from the Labour Party. This is a sound consultation, gives people the opportunity. But I will say, just as people have said, we need to have a local plan. We have a growing population and we must prepare for the future, and that will require building more, mainly on brownfield sites, and then if necessary taking in green space, unfortunately. But that is something which under the joint local plan was going to happen because there were higher housing numbers within that than are being proposed in any of the three options here. And also, of course, we've seen, people will have seen at the weekend, an article in the City of Stoke where they're bringing a number of green spaces forward for development, for sale and development. That, I believe, is because they no longer have Newcastle to fall back on because we're no longer in a local plan with them. We were going to be the growing space for Stoke, and I didn't want that to happen. So I took us out of the local plan, reset the clock. So those people that were protesting across the road, you're only having this protest now because we have reset the clock and allowing the process to start again. We'd be out to the Secretary of State for the joint local plan now with all of those plans to build on green space in them. We have stopped that. You should be supporting us and not the Labour group.
Is the leader categorically saying tonight that he will not build houses on Keele Golf Course? Yes or no?
I'm going to paraphrase the leader, so I can't be direct, but I think you said something on the lines of, I'd be silly to not consider Bradwell for the land there. I'm just wondering what exactly is silly to not consider. Is it the lack of GP? Is it the lack of dentists? Is it the 2 oversubscribed primary schools in the area? What in that area makes it such a prime spot for another 90 odd houses? I'd also like to ask the leader while I'm speaking to him, for the 3rd time, are you planning to build houses on Keele and Bradwell?
I don't recognise what Councillor Lawley said that I said. Well, I'll watch the video back after hours. I'll write to Councillor Lawley. I don't think I said those words.
You're asked the question 3 times. 3 times.
Councillor Simon Tagg, would you like to respond to the comments?
Just
please?
very briefly before we move to the vote, I think the arguments made against the motion, it will be an illegal motion from procurement purposes, and from the planning committee, it would completely stifle them and be, I believe, contrary to the law. So let's move to the vote on this motion. I will not be supporting it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a point of order, please, to the legal officer? Would you allow that?
I'm sorry, Councillor Stubbs, I didn't quite hear.
Would you allow a question to the legal officer about the statement that's just been made? It's a point of order.
I would have to ask
No, that's fine.
advice on that.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Could we move to the vote,
No,
please, and
no.
take a vote on that? And ask that the legal officer clarify by a written answer.
No, see,
Because-
you're avoiding it.
We're doing a full repair on the Labour motion live here, and it's not right. We should move to the vote.
No, we're not
so
doing it.
I
I'm
propose we
asking-
move to the vote. Is there a seconder for that?
Can I not ask? So are you facing?
Shameful.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My view and advice is that that particular paragraph would need a little bit more precision if it was to be put into a council policy, if it were to stand challenge when subsequently applied. So I'll sit on the fence and say that it's not lawful or unlawful as drafted, but if it were to be translated into a policy, I'd like to help you word it a little more precisely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
On a point of procedure, Mr. Mayor, by taking that motion, you are making the decision that debate on this item has been sufficiently completed. Are you comfortable making the decision that we have sufficiently debated the substantive motion? I ask you now, knowing that this meeting is publicly recorded, that you, as the Mayor, are satisfied the debate has been sufficiently completed on this motion.
I'm confident in that we've debated the motion.